is important, or my message, you can rely the education of your kids only to the school. You have to bring the basic education as a civilian and citizens about what are your rights. The common sense has to start first at home. That is going to create a barrier for your kids to be indoctrinated. But if you blindly trust in what they're going to be teach, and you need to be on top of your kid, checking what they are teaching to them, because you can give for granted that the professor are good or going to teach them good values, which is not happening right now.
Adherence to communist ideology is on the rise in Western civilization, especially among the youth. A 2023 survey published by the Fraser Institute, titled New Poll, reveals 50% of Canadians aged 18 to 24 favor socialism, but few Canadians willing to pay for it, revealed a clear net preference for socialism among those aged 18 to 34 in countries like the UK, US, Canada, and Australia. Of course, depending on how socialism is defined, support levels vary, but the trend is undeniable. I encourage you to read the full report. The link is in the description. Today, I'm sharing my interview with Alessandra Polga, a public relations specialist who was born in Venezuela and fled the harsh realities of communism. She is a powerful voice warning against the dangers of these ideologies that lead only to poverty and despair. This interview was recorded a few weeks ago at the Canada Strong and Free event. Now, let's hear from her.
Yes, well, I am originally from Venezuela, and I have to, after being kidnapped and escaped, I able to leave, run away from my country, and I came to Canada, find a safe place to my family. But what is surprising for me is the increasing of the tendencies on political influence here in Canada that I'm very concerning, and that brings me some deja vus about how everything started back in the time in Venezuela. You know where I come from?
You're new here. I don't
Okay, I'm from Latin America. I'm from Venezuela. Okay, I'm from Venezuela. Okay, perfect. Let's be nice. How many people is there under communist government, like with the Marxism? We're going to forget about. Oh, really?
What's happened for you, brother?
What interview me?
You don't know what
Do
to
it.
say?
Do it. Yes.
You're fighting for something that you don't have an answer?
You cannot argument.
Yeah.
You have no idea what are you promoting.
You see?
Can you explain why you started militating against socialism and communism?
Because those political spectrum, they never work. The economy is a disaster in all those countries. They try to work or implement those ideologies, and people is not free. They internal socialism. They want everyone equal, but equal down. They give you a roof at top, and you can cross those boundaries. You have to stay under the control of the state, and it's not freedom. They fool everyone, and what I'm really concerned and surprised is that those ideologies are getting into some part of the youth and generations here in Canada.
Mr. Speaker, so I was sitting. I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker, but this reminds me of a certain quote from Prime Minister Harper, who talked about the fight against climate change as a socialist plot. That's what the Conservative Party, and here it is, you have it again, Mr. Speaker, they do not believe believe that climate change is an issue?
Something that I hear most of the time is there is no real communism in the world. It's not the true communism.
Well, we have to divide this system in two sections. For example, China is a totalitarian regime. However, they have an state free market economy. The thing that they increase their capitalism, they are using our tools against us. They are in the free market. They make, because for the exploitation and the slavery in the labor sector, they can reduce the cost of production, but they make every capitalist and every country of the Western produce their products in China. And the agreement is that they own the property of everything that is produced in China. And in some way, yes, it's an economical battle, but for example, you have Venezuela, which is a regime that have more than 2,000 political prisoners, but is still in the oil industry. And some countries Europe and Latin America, including Canada, they still getting oil from those dictatorships. There is a point that you have to separate the ethics from make money. Human beings and human rights have to be related in every government. You cannot make profit from countries who are violators of human rights.
How come in Canada these ideologies are being promoted and people are adhering to communism and socialism into campus?
They have like a fantasy point of view of those countries and those political spectrum. In communist and socialist country, you are not free. If you are going against the government, you will confront the consequence. For example, Maria Oropesa, which is her, she is in jail. She has 7 months in jail just because she posted something in Instagram and because she was an scrutiner in the election on July 28th. She was the national police. They get to her house, they break in, and they keep her disappear for more than 15 days. And she's not allowed to have a private lawyer, has to be a public lawyer assigned by the regime, and there is no separation of power, there is no justice. And they accuse her as a terrorist, and because they changed the law, and they control the media, and they control the narrative. It's maybe that ring the bells or seem like it's happening recently here in Canada, and I don't understand why they don't talk with the victims, are people who really run away and live in those countries and know by the first hand the reality, and they have that romantic idea that those are freedom fighting, fighting against the system, that the state, and they want to defend the independence of the individual, and that is not true. Those communism is against property ownership, entrepreneurship, that kind of thing. The state owns everything. They say when you eat, what you eat, how much you eat.
Do you think the school system has influence on people?
For sure. Because it's the same pattern. This is not something new. What they do is take the control of the academia, take control of the education. They insert their activists as teachers and professors and start the machine of brainwashing the new generation. And the connection that we warning for so much time, it's the relationship between all those professors with unions. And the unions in Canada, like CUPE, is the one more influenced and and idealized with extreme left movement like communism and socialism and the woke culture that unfortunately they are working together. And I think that is important, or my message, you can rely the education of your kids only to the school. You have to bring the basic education as a civilian and citizens about what are your rights. The common sense has to start first at home. That is going to create a barrier for your kids to be indoctrinated. But if you blindly trust in what they're going to be teach, and you need to be on top of your kid, checking what they are teaching to them, because you can give for granted that the professor are good or going to teach them good values, which is not happening right now.
Don't forget to go over rebelfreereports.com. On this website, you can support us by donating a couple of bucks. Thank you to support our journalism, and thank you to make sure we are there to show you the other side of the story.